I'm Leigh with Aspire Advocacy, and today's video log is about goals. Most of you know needs drive assessments, assessments drive goals, goals drive supports, services, placement. I consider goals the backbone of the IEP in many ways. Every step is important and they're all interlaced. However, goals gives the school staff specifics on what to work on with the child and gives you, the parent, a way to measure how that work is going. Something Susie and I see in almost every IEP draft that we get when parents first ask us to look at their kids' IEP is that the goals aren't specific and the baselines are not measurable, or vice versa, or both. They're often pretty awful, and it's surprising. We honestly don't know if the staff is not taught how to write measurable goals, or if people are consciously or unconsciously writing goals that are not measurable, because then you don't really have a good way to determine whether they've been successful in teaching your child what the child needs to know for the last year. We don't know, but we do know we see a heck of a lot of IEPs with badly written baselines and goals. What might that look like? We've seen goals where a year from now, Elsa will read at a end of 4th grade level. Great. Baseline. Elsa is learning how to read and seems to enjoy doing it. Okay, if I don't know where she is now, how do I know if that's a reasonable expectation and progress for Elsa to make in that year? I need to know, is she at 2nd grade level, beginning of 3rd grade level, end of 3rd grade level? Where the child starts gives me a good idea of where the child needs to be a year from now. What is reasonable progress for this child given her capabilities and her disabilities a year from now? Without a specific start and a specific end date, the baseline is the start, the goal is the end date, where we want to end up. I don't know what progress has been made. Another time we'll see goals where Jake is going to do X by a year from now. Let's say Jake will respond appropriately when given a verbal cue. What does that mean? What are we looking for Jake to do? Are we looking for Jake to turn to the teacher? Are we looking for Jake to respond yes? Are we looking for Jake to get up? Very specifically, what is the behavior I'm expecting of Jake? Describe it to me. If it's either wave, stop what he's doing, turn towards me, then list those as possible examples. These are what I'm expecting from Jake. Sometimes I'll see baselines where I'll see nothing but a 0. What does that mean? I can begin to guess. Anytime you have to guess, or anytime they have to explain what the goal or the baseline means to you, it's not specific, it's not measurable. Sometimes the baseline is completely unrelated to the goal and you have no information about where the child is now. So the baseline doesn't have to be written exactly like the goal, but they should be pretty reflective of each other. I'm starting at A, I'm ending at B. It should be a similar sort of skill set. If I want the child to read phonetically, what words can they sound out now? At what level? What words do I expect them to sound out a year from now? It matters. Also, pretend you don't know anything about the child. Pretend you didn't hear anything about what the staff explained to you about the goal. If you handed the goal to somebody who did not know your child, would they be able to pick up with your child right where their teacher left off? Most of the times, no. With a well-written baseline and a well-written goal, any trained professional will know within a pretty narrow window where to start working with your child. That is the substance of a specific and measurable goal. Now, just because they throw in there that child will do it 80% of the time, that number isn't anything magical, neither is any other percentage. It's how specific it is. And like I said, my test is, could I hand it to somebody who didn't know the child and they know where to start? Often that case is no. The other thing is, How is the goal written? Often it's written implying that if the child does it one time, they will have met the goal. I'll ask that question in the meeting. So are we expecting this child to do this once and then they met the goal? And they'll kind of look at the goal and then they'll look back at me and say, well, that's not what I meant. I said, no, I figured that was the case. Thanks. So what should we put it? Especially if the child has some really good days and maybe skills aren't consistent across all days. And I have days that are better than others. And a lot of our kids with special needs have to have some peaks and valleys. It might be worth having that skill shown over multiple sessions. So a good way to write a goal, and my preferred way, is child will do it X% of the time over Y opportunities over X number of days or even weeks. An example might be if we want the child to have a back and forth conversation with peers, because maybe that's an area of weakness. So perhaps he or she has a back and forth conversation, 3 volleys over a topic that's a preferred interest or a non-preferred interest, depending on what the child's working on at the time. And then perhaps they do it 80% of the time over 3 weeks, so that we show that the skill is solid and repeatable, so that there's a much better chance that that child will have the skill moving forward. There's any number of ways that we can look at goals and baselines, but just the real quick off the top of your head, as I've said, is would a total stranger know what this means? If you need a 10-minute explanation from staff on what the goal means, it's not specific, it's not measurable. If you don't know where the child is right now when you're reading that baseline, it's not specific, it's not measurable. And if they write it in jargon and you don't understand it, say so. There's no shame in that. It's much better to know what's going on and to understand it fully so you can participate than to be guessing. If you'd like help in writing and reading measurable goals and measurable baselines, that's right in our wheelhouse. We'd love to talk to you about that more. Please give us a call. Leigh at Aspire Advocacy. Thank you.